I feel like you guys do have some sort of code that you live by, right? Like as wild as it is,
sure.
where you don't give a fuck about, it's almost like you don't give a fuck about yourself and like your own personal physical and emotional feelings, but you do make sure that you don't. I mean, I guess there are people who have probably been affected by your pranks and shit, but for the most part, I feel like you guys do kind of take them into account.
Dude, I'm really proud to say that I think that there's something legitimately wholesome about Jackass. Like from the beginning, like you're right, like as reckless, as fucking irresponsible, you know, as self-destructive. Like we only target ourselves and each other.
Right.
And we've been really like careful not to be like mean-spirited. Like the spirit of everything we do is just not mean. And like there's something about that that's really it's really like
it's likable. That's why we all like it. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, there's the chemistry between us. There's our ability to like be okay with looking uncool, you know, like to not take yourself seriously, I think is important. And I mean, whatever. There's just a bunch of ingredients that just worked out. It's like 20 years.
How does that crew come together? Like I know, you know, the CKY guys were doing, you know, their thing, and then like, do you meet Knoxville and these guys through just like, well, there's only a handful of us out here who are willing to fucking, you know, do this shit, so we got to roll together?
There were two camps. There was Bam's CKY crew, and then there was Big Brother Skateboarding Magazine. Okay. And the Big Brother Skateboarding Magazine was this just this awful fucking. I mean, it's so funny to talk about how Jackass was not mean-spirited when the origins of Jackass coming from Big Brother Magazine, which was totally not that. You know, like it was the skateboarding magazine that was just for the purpose of just being fucking terrible and awful. And the way that this magazine started, there was a guy who owned a skateboard conglomeration of companies called World Industries. And he was just a fucking maniac. His name was Steve Rocco. And so his idea of promotion for his company, he would just do fucked up shit. And the magazine's Thrasher and Transworld, he submits this ad, and the ad is a little kid, maybe like fucking like 10 years old, and the kid has a gun in his mouth, and the ad just says World Industries, kill yourself. And that was the ad. That's all there was to it. And that's perfectly yeah. So, and that was what Steve Rocco was all about in World Industries. And like he submitted that ad to Thrasher magazine, to Transworld Skateboarding magazine, and they both sent it back. They said, "Look, you know, we're if you think we're gonna run that ad, you're out of your mind. There's no way." So Steve Rocco, the guy who's trying to run the ad, he's like, "Oh, you don't like my fucking ad?" And the one of the magazines said, "Yeah, actually, like I personally am upset by it because one of my best friends, you know, in high school killed himself." And so Steve Rocco's like, "Oh yeah, okay, well I'm really sorry to hear that, but maybe you could make a whole fucking list of every little bad thing that ever happened to you in your whole fucking life, so I can model the way I run my business around your little sensibilities, fucking pussy," you know? And he says, you know what? He says, "Fuck Thrasher, fuck Transworld, you know, fuck you both. I'm never going to run a fucking ad in either of your magazines again. Fuck you. I'm going to start my own magazine." And that was how Big Brother magazine started. Steve Rocco, just as a vendetta or something, he started the skateboard. The only purpose for Big Brother magazine was to serve as a forum for filth that would never be allowed or to be published in Thrasher or Transworld. That was the only reason for it.
So many successful businesses came right out of spite. That's it. I respect the hell out of that.
You know what, though? I mean, that's a perfect example. Like, you guys, who you are as people, and the timing of it all. Like, I don't know if, you know, there was like a perfect point in history for Jackass and all of this shit to come together. If you tried to do it now, forget about it. Everyone's too sensitive. If you tried to do it a little bit earlier, you know, TV and the internet's not really around yet. I mean, it was like the only time in like human history that it could have worked, and you guys were the right age at the right time in the right place. It's amazing.
It's a little bit lightning in a bottle, man, for sure. But yeah, so Big Brother Magazine starts, and the editor-in-chief was Jeff Tremaine, who's the Jackass director.
Right.
And like, dude, they had articles like they had journalistic integrity. You know, like when they wrote when they published the article about the 10 most effective ways to commit suicide, like they did their research, you know, like they were like, and this is a magazine that was like targeted at little kids. It was chock filled with and it was chock full of fucking complete nudity, full frontal nudity, you know, like it's just not legal. They had like how to buy crack, you know, on the street, like, and again, like total journalistic integrity, like, and then at one point they got in a lot of trouble because they had they would have themes for their issues, you know, and like, I mean, dude, there was a kids issue, and the famous skateboarder Ryan Sheckler. You know, Ryan Sheckler was 8 years old at the time. 8 years old on the cover. It was
I don't like where this is going.
And dude, they got a lot of fucking backlash. There's a lot of for the shit that they were asking kids, like, would you fuck your mom if that would make you a pro skater? You know, shit like that. Like, you know, it was just like, so Larry Flint found out about the kids issue, and he saw it as a First Amendment issue, you know. So Larry Flint bought Big Brother Magazine. Steve Rocco was just over it. He's like, all right, dude. So Steve Rocco sold Big Brother Magazine to Larry Flint, and that was the first issue that I was in. Was the first one published by Larry Flint. Now, meanwhile, they're putting out videos of everything, and dude, they had a cult following. So Jeff Tremaine reached out to Spike Jonze, the big movie director.
Yeah, wow.
And Jeff Tremaine says, "Yo, Spike, my Big Brother videos are like seriously like fucking catching, like, you know, like a cult following. Like they're really, they're so popular, but nobody gives a fuck about the skateboarding." He says, I think if we subtract the skateboarding and just make it the antics, then that could be a fucking TV show. And so they cut out the skateboarding, and then what was left was me and Knoxville and Wee Man, and they joined with BAM, and they put it together, and that's how it started.